Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Innovantage Podcast, where business meets tech to bring you your competitive edge. As always, I'm your host, Max, and it is my ongoing job and duty to explore that edge between business and tech and to find out what is hiding in between those two things. And our job here for today is to explore a very interesting facet of that edge. We're going to be looking from a very high vantage point at many highbrow concepts. We are going to be looking at economics. We're going to be looking at, economical concepts. We're going to be looking at politics. We're going to be looking at education. We're going to be looking at a lot of things, hopefully deep enough to find them interesting and broad enough to find them diverse. To help me on that journey is Professor Rudy Aernoudt, who is, a venerative multiple author, a speaker, and a political activist, and has so many titles that I honestly struggled and even didn't try to remember all of them. So, Rudy, welcome to the show.
Thank
you for
you.
being here.
Nice to be here.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me, how did your career develop? What is it that you do currently? Which titles of your many, many titles are the actual ones?
Well, first of all, let me say I'm not very fancy on titles, so I'm not going to enumerate them all. But I don't like to be put in a box, I even think thinking out of the box is not good because then the box is still the reference. So I really like to be out of all that. So indeed, I'm a professor. So I'm teaching at the University of Ghent, which is in Belgium. And I'm teaching in Vilnius at the BMI Executive Institute, which is the number one institute on MBA programs in Europe. So I'm teaching the geopolitics and monetary policy. So that's one part of my life, teaching. Then the second part is writing. So I'm a columnist and I'm writing books. So that's what I like as well. And as you said, politics. I was chief economist at the European Commission. But at the same time, I was head of cabinet, I was the chief of staff, as we call it, at European level, at Belgium level, at Walloon level, and Flemish level, the two regions. So for that, I'm in the Guinness Book of Records. So I would say I'm just head of my business card, head of staff, chief of staff. Then I don't have to change my business cards all the time. So that's most of it. What I've been doing. I've been working. I managed myself a non-governmental organization, which is a spin-off of MIT for 3 years. So because you're in the tech business, I was doing, and some people might know the $100 laptop. So we bought more than 4 million laptops in Southern America and African countries for schools, for education. So that was part of my business. So at the same time, I'm founder of the European Business Angel Network. So I'm entrepreneurial, academic, and practical. So I call myself pracademic. The word doesn't exist, but it sounds good for me.
Hey, it objectively sounds good. I like it. I like it. So how did you arrive to this point? How do you balance all of these things in your career?
Well, I think the word balance is a new word. And I see this whole discussion, the balance between free time and work. I don't like the balance thing, I think if you do your work, it should be passion. It should be your job. And it's not something you say, I'm going to my work until 5 o'clock and then life starts. No, I think this whole discussion about 4 days a week or 5 days a week, I find this personally bullshit. You should make that the whole life, let's say 24 hours a day, you have fun, you're busy and you're doing what you like. And that's why I always say to my students, a lot of students say, Professor, what should I do later? I said, just what you like. What's your passion? Don't do something you don't like. And if you're in a job that you don't like, please have the guts to say bye-bye. Don't think about your mortgage, but just do something else.
Well, it's a very freeing concept. It's a very freeing way of thinking. But I believe a lot of people are stuck in those loops for one reason or the other, either self-inflicted or inflicted by somebody else on the outside. And I believe that that's kind of the challenge, right? Where first you have to understand what is it that you like and what is it that you don't like, right? It requires a certain level of self-actualization, self-identification, which is hard to do when you're like 20, for example. You don't know anything at 20.
This is true, but at the same time, I think we are all children of the Enlightenment. So, and as Kant said, don't be too lazy to think yourself. So I think for young people, it's nice to think about it. And of course, you can start working in a business and doing a business. But my latest book is called Entrepreneurship with the subtitle "Life is Too Short to Work for a Boss." Just as a provocative statement, let's think about it. What do I want to do with my life? Huh? And indeed, as you said, the big thing is to get stuck, to get stuck in the middle. And that's what a lot of people see. You are 35, 40, your mortgage is still running 15 years. Your children are there and there are still 10, 15 years to take care of them. And so you're stuck. And then you're doing a job you don't like. That's why we have so much burnouts in Europe or bore-outs. Huh? And I think we should have a culture saying, let's take distance. What do I really want? I'm happy in my life. I'm happy what I'm doing. And that should be something we do more. We should do more rotation. That's what I like about the startup tax. You do something, you like something. If you don't like it, you change your company. That's good in the service branch as well. So I think we should be more really children of the Enlightenment, taking our life in hand and be less led by consumption and by television and by whatever. I think we should think ourselves what we want to do with our life. And so coming back to the question, how do you make the balance? There is no balance. And I like the imbalance. I need the imbalance.
Okay, so then any maybe practical tips of how do you maybe not balance, but how do you put your focus into different parts of your life? So politics, they are all encompassing, generally speaking, right? Being chief of staff, that's... I've never been that close to politics, but I'm going to take a blind guess and say that it's not easy.
No, it's true. But I think it's now the 6th time I'm chief of staff, and the 5 times I said never again. You see how consequent I am. But if you are chief of staff, you can change things. Huh? And I think my ambition is simply to change the world. Huh? So if you can change things, I always try to be in a position that I have an influence. Huh? And that's again something that everybody has to decide for himself. What do you want in life? I want to have influence. I want to change things. I want to make the quality of our citizens better. And that's why I always was working for Europe, because that's a major player in changing the quality of the life of the citizens. Huh? And so coming back to the questions, I think that's what things happens, At the same time, if I always combined it by being professor. Because as a professor, if I give in Ghent financial management, I have something like more than 1,000 students in the aula. Mm-hmm. If then some of the students have some critical thinking, because I'm not there to say what they have to think. I'm there to say, try to think. You see? And if then you have some students saying, we think about our life, what we do, what kind of studies we want, what kind of job we want, then I think you influence the world. And that's in fact what I like about myself and about the jobs I want to choose.
Well, also a very idealized vision, because I've talked to professors before and I've mentioned this off camera. We do a lot of work in the edtech space. So there's a lot of conversation going on about education currently and how to address the current challenges in education. Because if we dumb down the arguments as I hear them, is basically children are getting less focused. It's very hard to teach them anything. They lack very basic skills at a level where they shouldn't lack them. And students cheat all over, and it's basically very hard to catch them doing it. And how do you address this whole thing that's being currently targeted and transformed with AI tools and any other tools? Like, in your personal experience, is there, a way forward, or is everything under threat?
No, I think it's very hard now to be young, huh? Because you have to choose between a television screen, your computer screen, and your iPhone screen. So and you see a lot of young people are addicted to the screens. Huh?
Oh yes.
And then if you ask them to learn something, they said, "But why should we do it? AI will tell us for us." Huh?
Yeah.
Like before, I think we all have now our GPS. If your GPS is broken, you don't know the way. You can even get lost in the center of Vilnius way of speaking. Eh?
I definitely will, yes.
Yeah, you see, because you're so used to it. And if you extrapolate that to artificial intelligence, we should really make that artificial intelligence does not mean that our people become artificially stupid. And I think that's a learning process. So again, what is the role of a professor today? It's the role of to put people in front of what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to know? How dependent you want to be of all these screen things? How dependent you want to be of artificial intelligence, which is the GPS of the future, if you want. But at the same time, I see a lot of colleagues of mine who are saying, yes, but Rudy, our students, they don't have the discipline as before. I said, no, that's not true. They have commitments. Perhaps not on the same objectives that we want, but if they are, for instance, striking for the climate, okay, I prefer they do it not during the courses, but on a Saturday. But the fact that they do it, I find it good. I find it good. They're committed for something which goes beyond their daily life. So I'm not part of those who say our youth is spoiled. I say our youth has a big potential, but it must be difficult to live in a time with AI, with all these instruments which everybody sees.
Yeah.
I think before we went out to play, now they just play with their friends on Facebook. So do you still have friends? Question mark.
Is it a question for me or is it a rhetorical question?
You can take it as you want.
Well, I will answer a bit for myself. I am fully agreeing with you, by the way. So I do believe that this is a challenge and this is how it should be treated first and foremost, because I have said numerous times that I'm more so an optimist when it comes to tech. I do believe that technology in the end can lead to good things, but it does not mean that you need to blindly follow whatever trend is going on. It's a tool like any other, and the more potential a tool has, the more it has the potential for the good things and the bad things. So when we take AI, even at my own level, even for myself, I can definitely feel my brain being atrophied by interacting with AI. The more I interact with it, the less I am reliant on my own brain to function, and more I'm like, yeah, well, AI will figure it out. I don't need to keep any figures, for example, in my mind. Like, why would I remember like which particular percentage I saw last week in the news of the latest poll on some topic, right? There's going to be a million of them.
Mhm.
It's impossible to remember all of them, and I will ask AI like, what's the general consensus on like the latest trends? Like, just give me that stuff, and that's wrong.
I
That's
think that's fully wrong, and even I think this the big problem is what they call anthropomorphism.
Mhm.
Before we said God came down, it came Jesus. Now Jesus, we don't believe it anymore. It's AI. We ask something to AI, they say, "Thank you for the answer," but AI is not a human being.
Yeah.
Please, can you answer me that? But and we take AI more and more as a kind of partner. And that's indeed, as you say, this is a dangerous evolution
Yeah.
because then we will depend on them. And besides being an economist, I'm a philosopher as well. Nobody's perfect. I would refer to a forgotten book from Martin Heidegger on the technique, it's called. So the reason, our relation with technique, it's a book of the 40s. You read it today, you change technique by AI, and you see the difficulty of our relation. Where will be the man, the human being, in relation to the machine? And that's with AI a huge problem we should think about. I think the thing about AI that we did not discuss is ethics.
Oh, yes.
And that should be the hot topic, ethics of AI.
Well, ethics is not a popular talking point amongst the current general consensus, like general discourse. Like ethics does not just play into it. You look at the current geopolitical situation, very hard to find anything ethical in
Yep.
it, honestly. You look at the current domination of the corporate mindsets, if we can call it that. Ethics,
Yeah, but at the same time, I think for me that ethics is the future. And I think even for Europe, because now you're starting on geopolitics, so I have to go
Damn.
into
Sorry, I made that mistake, but I will own it. Let's go.
your problem. No, I think we should stop from Europe to say, let's copy the Americans or let's copy the Chinese. What's our model? We have a model. We can have a value-driven economy, an economy based on ethics. And if we do that, then we have our unique selling proposal. And that's something we should do even in the field of technology. And then we should stop by saying, are we worse than the innovation AI United States? Though we have lower costs or higher costs for labor than China? No, that's stop comparing. Think about your own model. That's what you do as well. If you develop a new company or you have your software, you don't say, well, I'm worse than this one. No, you say, what is my thing? What is my specific thing? What is my market? And that's what Europe as a whole should do as well.
See, that's a very beautiful thought because I've had a few conversations surrounding this topic already, and on and off camera, of course, as well. And an argument that comes up a lot when we're talking about startups, when we're talking about innovation, is that innovation is stifled in Europe due to regulation, due to not having the gigantism of the US and their budgets and everything else. And everything moves like this in the US. So if you're a startup, why would you go to Europe when you can go to the US and you raise the same amount of money in less amount of time and you will go faster and blah, blah, blah. I believe that that's a false argument, personally, at least. There's a lot of things besides fast funding that a startup needs to take from and contribute to. And a lot of those things just kind of not obvious. So like I've been doing business for a long time now. And some would say like successful, but not too successful, right? So I've learned my share of knocks and I have a lot more to learn. And if I were to start from the beginning, I would definitely put more value towards like the general infrastructure that surrounds me, like people that I know, what kind of systems do I have access to? We mentioned grants, for example.
Yep.
Those are a very underappreciated area that exists in Europe and is promoted in Europe. In the US, well, not so much. So coming back to your expertise and your experience, since you are heavily involved in SMEs and startups and entrepreneurship, how do you see that debate, like Europe versus the US? Where should like a young entrepreneur put their faith towards and move towards in order to build a successful business?
Well, I think, and now we start comparing. But first of all, if you look to facts and figures, and you don't have to ask AI, they're in my head.
I told you that you were smarter than me from the very, very beginning, because in my head, it's mostly AI at this point, which is bad. I know that it's bad.
If you look to the last 10 years, 35% of all startups in the world are European, 42 are American. So on the startup scene, we are there. America is there on the startup. What is our big problem? Our big problem is to grow fast, what you call the scale up. And then you see the scale up, it's twofold. The first one is money, because we don't achieve in Europe to mobilize, for instance, the pension funds. You see the pension funds, they are 0.18% of their assets under management go to venture capital. That's nothing. That should be 1 or 2%. It should change the world. So we have too much small scale-up funds. And the second point is the mindset, the entrepreneurship of our entrepreneurs. Of course, not in the tech sector, but a lot of rather conservative sectors. You prefer to be your own boss, and of course, never less than 50%. I always say to my students, one of the richest guys in the world, Bill Gates, he never had more than 9% of Microsoft. Why should we want 50% plus 1? That's the criteria of most of the entrepreneurs. Forget that one. It's much better to have a small percentage of a company that's growing than a big percentage of a company that's stagnating. And so the one hand is the supply, scale up, and we should do something. And I've been working a lot of elements and instruments, the commission to work on that supply. And the second thing, which is much more difficult, is the demand issue, is the mindset. The mindset of we want to grow. I don't say that companies that don't want to grow, lifestyle companies, has to be condemned. But I say those who grow, they create innovation, they create employment. So I think it's a concept of money, but at the same time, it's a concept of what do we want? Do we want a growing company? And that's what we should work on in Europe. But based on that, we should not be Calimero. We should not compare that America, everything is better there. This is not the case. Of course, we see the nice stories and success stories, but a lot of other stories in America as well.
Oh, yes. Yes. America is rich for storytelling right now. It's like a live TV show, basically, that you tune in.
Narrative they have,
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, you see these guys, I want a second chance policy with these guys. I was bankrupt, got bust, and now on the stock. Okay, but how much of them are there?
Yeah. So if I had an AI handy, I would ask them, like, what's the current percentage? But from the top of my head, I do not know, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, and see, that's part of the problem. Again, I am aware of the limitations of the tools that I'm using, but at the same time, I'm still using them in an incorrect way because I'm still trying to figure a lot of this stuff out for me personally.
Yeah.
And the same tools are being applied to mass populaces at the same time. So,
But I think artificial intelligence is a hype as well. I've seen a report last week that 95% of the AI startups will never fly. So there's a lot of lost money in that. So it's... And you say another internet bubble. And every 25 years, you have a kind of internet bubble. So it's nice to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure that I would use the word nice, but yeah.
Well, nice, yes. Again, as philosopher, crisis is coming from the Greek word crisis,
Mm.
Kraeses.
Hmm.
And crisis in Greek means seeing opportunities, taking decisions. So crisis is in fact something positive.
Hmm.
And I think we should live with that. And I think to all CEOs and CFOs of companies, and a lot of people say, Rudy, Professor, when will be the crisis? Will there be over? I said, never, because economy is crisis.
Hmm.
Economy is not something flat. That's why, in fact, you cannot combine economy with a huge administration of people who are appointed for the whole life.
Hmm.
For the whole life doesn't mean something in economy. There's no such thing as long life appointment, long life nominations. So it's something as short run. We know today what we're doing, and we will see tomorrow or in 2 years' time what will be the economic context, where are the opportunities. Perhaps your company will fly in 2 years' time, or perhaps you have to change completely a business model.
Yeah. 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 I agree. I agree. That's just kind of inherently a part of the system. I've always looked at it through the lens of business. Like business is constantly a crisis. You go from one crisis to
Yep.
the next. You're always fumbling. You're always solving something. Something breaks. Something doesn't work as you want it to, and then you fix it again, and something else breaks, and then blah blah blah. I always refer to business as basically not the amounts of times that you've succeeded at doing something, it's the amount of times you failed at doing
Yep.
something. And the more you fail, the more you will succeed just by nature. The failure is where everything happens, basically.
Yeah, and at least it's way of looking at things. I like a definition which is not the classical one of entrepreneurship. I go back to Machiavelli,
Mm.
5 centuries ago.
Okay.
And Machiavelli said, an entrepreneur is somebody who simply makes the difference between an obstacle and an opportunity
Mm.
and is capable to turn both into his advantage. That's entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I guess Machiavelli would have been a great entrepreneur if he were alive today. A lot of the principles are definitely applicable and effective. But moving forward, how do you see the role of venture capital in Europe? Like, what should it support, if not that explosive growth, if not that kind of US-centric mindset of just more, 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 faster, faster, faster?
Well, I think in venture capital, what we see, we should combine with what Europeans want and what the financial world wants.
Mm.
And I see we always say, okay, on the one hand, there's our loan culture. We like banking. Because why do we like banking? For the academics, it's called the pecking order theory. First, I put my money. If I have not enough money, I go to the bank because if I pay them back, they leave me in peace.
Mhm.
They don't get involved.
Mhm.
If you go to equity or venture capital, you call it smart money. But smart money, sometimes smart money, it's nice, but means that next to you, there's another boss. And that's what a lot of people don't want anymore. So I think in Europe, we should develop much more, and that might be something to do in the next 5 years, all forms of mezzanine financing, meaning financing which is not bank financing and not equity, but between both. That's why you call it mezzanine. It's like an Italian house. It's not the ground floor. It's not the first floor. It's between both. It's the balcony where Hamlet was singing for Julia. That's in fact the mezzanine. I think we should develop mezzanine much more because it allows companies to grow fast with money without diluting too much. So that's one thing we should do. The second thing, if you speak about venture capital, one of the big problems today in Europe is that a lot of venture capital, I'm not speaking about MBO money, but purely venture capital, a lot of them is public money. Do you have an idea about all the venture capital in Europe, how much is public money? 42%.
Oh, wow, really?
Amazing. This is a kind of subsidy agencies.
Yeah.
So there's much too much public money. And if you have public money, you have a danger what you call crowding out. Meaning, if the public guys are putting money and are sitting in your board, the private guy says, I don't want to sit next to that guy of whatever ministry. That's not what I want. So by putting more public money, you don't trigger private money, but you withdraw private money. That's what you call crowding out. So, and that's why I think that the public intervention as it is today, and interrupt me if I'm too technical, today is based on what we call pari passu. Public money has the same rights and obligations as private money. Same return, same negative return in case of failure. Well, in fact, you should change that. And you should do the American way, what you call the small business investment company, the SBICs, where in fact the public money has lower conditions in case things goes well than the private money. And that was, in fact, for me, the inspiration of a new scheme which I launched in Europe, which is the Escala scheme.
Hmm.
And Escala is the Spanish word for to escal, to go up. But at the same time, is to have scale up money. And so the whole idea of Escalar is, in fact, that you trigger pension funds and public money to put into a fund. But for pension funds, because you want to reduce their risk,
Yeah.
in case of failure of the fund, they're paid back first.
Mm.
But if the fund goes very well, the return going to the private is higher than the return going to the public. Sorry to be so technical, that's what you call a non-pari passu.
Hmm.
And if we do that, then the public money will create much more venture capital. Going back to the question, we need venture capital to grow. And because if you're a tech company, what do you have? You have brains and software. A bank does not know the value of brains, does not know the value of software, so there's no collateral.
Yeah.
So that's not the solution. So you need to have the develop an equity culture. But this we can do by two ways. One, mezzanine, and two, the public intervention on a non-pari passu basis.
Okay. Okay. That's a
Sorry
very
to be
interesting
technical
idea.
for once.
Yeah, don't worry, don't worry. Like I said, I'm the dumb one in the conversation. I'm just kind of nodding along and waiting for the explanations. And I feel that a lot of our listeners are also not well versed in economics, and hearing new concepts coming out is a very important part in understanding what kind of options you have. Because again, as a typical startup, from what I see around myself personally, I want to speak for the whole industry, is somebody who has an idea and believes in that idea, and somebody who does not have that much experience or understanding in how funding works or where to get the best kind of resources for a project or whatever. Even though, from the statistics that I do remember, they're like most successful startup founders are over the age of 40, from what I remember. So, I separate kind of those people into a separate kind of bracket, because successful startups is a separate thing. But a lot of that experience, you become a successful startup founder at 40 because you've spent your 20s and your 30s basically failing at stuff and learning new stuff. And yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, as the Chinese said, failure is the base of success. Huh? You have to do it. And to come back on financing, if you look at startups, 60% of startups are financed by business angels, 30% by seed capital, which is the Department of Venture Capital, and 10% by crowdfunding.
Mhm.
So, in fact, business angels are the most important. And I founded EBAN, the European Business Angel Network, at that time, which is now 25 years ago. I was young and good looking. And when I founded EBAN, there were no business angel networks on continent Europe. There were some in UK, and that's why I find in fact the idea in the United States and the United Kingdom, mainly United Kingdom. Now we have 350 business angel networks. For instance, an example is Lithuania. The Litban is a very, very good and one of the best business angel networks of Europe. And you see that if you start with business angels, it's a small money, 60,000, 100,000, 200,000. But at the same time, it's smart money. The business angel is there. Mostly the business angel is somebody who has not failed but has succeeded as well, who has some money, who has time, who knows how an enterprise works. And he wants a challenge. He wants some fun. He does not want the return of the big guys of the venture capital world. So it can be a partner if it clicks. If it doesn't click, it's a business devil, of course. But if it clicks, it goes very well. And we see that most of the companies take Vinted, take Skype, take Spotify. All those companies, they started by business angel financing. So my message to startups is, if you want to start up and you're looking for 100 to 500,000, go to see a business angel network. That's the best place to be.
I agree. And I also am kind of cognizant of the effectiveness of the local network specifically. Like the Baltics, a lot of the time are underappreciated when it comes to the activity behind a lot of its communities. And the investment community, and specifically you mentioned Lidban, is one of the kind of the heading, the top ones when it comes to funding, are very, very good, honestly. And I see more and more startups coming in from outside of the Baltics, one of the latest batches in plug and play. I remember companies from the UK,
Yep.
which is a pretty funny thing when you're familiar a little bit with the Lithuanian culture, where a lot of Lithuanians always valued the possibility to just go to the UK and either study or work
Yep.
or
And where the money
raise
is, where the
funds.
money is as well. Huh?
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
have the business angel network. I remember the time when I created EBAN, there were 45 business angel networks in the United Kingdom. 40. You see, so that's where the thing happened.
Yeah.
And now, because by the way, I don't know if some of the listeners know Faulty Towers. Faulty Towers is a very nice thing on UK, humoristic preserve. And in that place, in Turkey, that's why at a certain moment I was invited by the commission to give an opening speech to the National Conference of Business Angels. I did not know what business angel was, so the whole night I was reading that, and I gave, of course, a fantastic opening speech. I said, "Hey guys, this is interesting what you're doing. Let's do it in Europe." That's how it works. So you don't always to reinvent the wheel. And I see that the business angel networks like Lidban or for instance in Belgium and in Flanders, they're working very, very good. So, and it makes a difference. And it makes that entrepreneurs who have a good idea find money.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's, if you would, one thing we still not have in business angel, and that's a call as well, it's we don't have enough female business angels, huh? Because you have a lot of women having money and who can very good in any sector. And for one reason or another, business angels is still a male business, unfortunately.
Why is that? Why is that?
Well, it's a big question, but if you look to startups, what you call venture capital backed startups, so startups who got venture capital. Huh? So when all startups together in Europe, 30%, one out of three almost, are women led. Out of the venture capital startups, so seed capital, do you know how much go to women led companies? 2%.
I was going to say 1%. I was going to be very negative.
Okay, 2%. But this is not okay. It should be 30% at least. Huh?
Yeah, at least.
So again, because one of the reasons we analyze, and I published a lot of papers on that topic, one of the reasons is that, in fact, you work with referrals. Huh? So if you have a project and you just send it to the VC, they will never read and open it. Huh? But if you give it to me, and I know a guy who is arranging a fund, and say, you should look to what this guy, what Max is doing, have a look. That's what they call referrals. 87% of the financing goes to referrals. So if you're in a kind of male network, what I call the old boys network, then referrals are male to male. And that's what makes more difficult for women to get there. So I think that should be one of the challenges to take, that in fact we should have more female-led companies that gets business angel financing, that gets seed capital financing. That will be one of the challenges, I think, for the next 5 years.
Okay. So what can we do, like, as people who are not particularly business angels, but I do believe that there should be more balance between female and male business angels, and I also am very kind of supportive of any female-led businesses. Generally speaking, I believe that there is a lot of perspectives that are underappreciated, undershown, undervalued, that can be shown through that lens. So is there something that we can do to promote that?
Well, the first thing you could do is the next person you invite to your podcast should be a female business angel who has a nice story and explaining how it works and how they look at things, because it might be not completely the same way that they look at things. By the way, for investors, I can tell you something. If you look to the business plans that has been introduced at the moment that the company is looking for money, and 4 years later, the reality, then you can see that female-led business plans, they are much closer than reality than the man. So the man, they say, I'm going to have a turnover of 4 million, it's 400,000, and the women is 2 million. Eh? So both are overestimating, but the women are less overestimating. So I would say for a business angel, investing in a women-led company gives you, on average, a better return of 2 times. That's what the studies say. So in fact, it's strange because that's where you can make money, but the money doesn't go there. So that's a nice example of a market failure, which are rather based on our mindset. And we think so. There were some nice Harvard experiences. The same project, which is pitched, you don't see the person, but you only hear the voice. If the voice is female or the voice is male, the male has much more chance to get the money than the female voice. So it's really between the ears that is the problem.
Oh, yes.
Literally in that case.
Yeah. That's what can you do? What can you do?
Create awareness, and I think you have a perfect instrument in your hands to collaborate to that one.
Yeah. So hopefully that contributes positively to the
Yeah.
whole situation, and people will take away that you need to listen to women more, and not that I just need to network with more men then. because 87% are funded by just referrals.
See.
So coming back to your political expertise and your political point of view, what do you feel is the current political landscape of European innovation? So is there anything that you would particularly want to address or change, or is there anything that you particularly like that kind of propels us forward, or this potentially can?
Well, if you let you speak to, let me start by the European perspective.
Sure.
If you take the last 4 years, let me call it Ursula 1. Ursula 1. Ursula 1, during the 4 years, made 13,000 new laws.
Oh, wow.
10 a day, which you're all supposed to know. Those 13,000 laws are then translated into national or even regional law. And most of the member states has this bad habit when they translate something, they add some local things. So this means that you have this bureaucracy who is, as Max Weber say, has its own inflation. So in Europe, we are too much regulated. And I think the biggest enemy of innovation is regulation. So the first thing you should do, and I know this is a word you cannot pronounce, is deregulation. We can still say simplification, that's acceptable. Delegation is not. I think Europe needs deregulation. And I hope that Ursula 2 is going to do deregulation. And it started to have some positive impact now. You see, for instance, the due diligence regulation. We say before it was you have to see if values are respected for your suppliers and suppliers of suppliers and so on. Now it's only one left, just one supplier. So I think now there's a whole what we call the whole regulation issue, the omnibus, what we call them, going through the whole regulation of Europe and trying to simplify them. I would say to Lithuania or any other European country, do the same exercise. Simplify, deregulate. What do you really need? I don't say I'm against regulation, but you have to have smart regulation. The second thing, you have to have stable regulation. Montesquieu was saying you cannot change the law only with trembling hands. Means if the law is there, don't change it all the time. If you want to make a business plan, you have a taxation policy in country A, well, you should be sure that this taxation policy is still there in 10, 15 years' time. And you see the most competitive countries, they don't change too much the law. Look at Singapore, look at Switzerland. You know where you are. You know in your business plan, this is a tax you have to pay. You know it. In other countries, like my country, Belgium, it changes all the time, so you don't know. So I think the role of policy is to create a framework, to create a context where it is nice to undertake. And we have a stable context, stable regulation, not too much regulation, smart regulation. That's the first important thing to do. On money, I must say, I'm not a big fan of subsidies because subsidies, sometimes it's not used in the best way. It doesn't go to the people who need it most. I'm a big fan of financial engineering instruments like venture capital, like business angel, like reimbursable loans. It means when a company has a loan from a government body, if it works, you pay back. The same for equity. So we should think of renewable instruments. If there is success, why don't you pay back? If you fail, tant pis. And if you would convert all the financial instruments we have, we can do it. You must know that, and some people will not like what I'm saying now, but we are swimming in the money. Swimming. If you take liabilities minus assets, so what we have as assets, you take away the liabilities, we still have something like 180% of the GDP. Even in Lithuania. So we are swimming in the billions. The problem is transmission. How can you make that those billions from pension funds, from private savings, how can you make that a big part of that goes into the companies, into your company, into startup companies and scale-up companies? That's the challenge. So we don't have to print more money. We printed already enough. No more printing.
No more printing, that's
But you have to use the money we have. And therefore, you have techniques based on tax policy, based on what I explained before, the non-pari passu systems. These are the kind of systems that we have to develop now in order that the money find its way to enterprises.
What about defense? I feel that this is one of the hottest topic right now, and maybe one that actually has less kind of regulational gridlock when it comes to making decisions, at least lately. I see a lot of startups are kind of more tangible, more, I wouldn't say successful because I see a lot of early stage startups, so it's too early to say, but a lot of kind of more tangible ideas that I personally believe in more are related to either defense or dual use or anything, outside of the AI bubble where we will create a B2B SaaS with
Yeah.
AI and we will be the best. Like, nothing against those types of startups. I'm sure that some of them will definitely succeed. But looking at Europe as a whole, should some or maybe a lot of that money go towards defense to kind of decouple ourselves from the from the big brother, the US and
Well,
everybody else?
there was a German philosopher, well known, Wilhelm Hegel. He said, law is a child of time. 2 years ago, there was what we call a list of forbidden instruments, forbidden investments, which was a European Investment Bank. So you could not have subsidies, equity, whatever, for which was tobacco, porno, and defense. 2 years ago. You see, I think porno is still there. But defense is no longer, because we need defense. And we see now that we have been neglecting investments in defense.
Yeah.
So we have really now to weigh, and I think we should think that defense is not only war. Defense is research. Defense is training of the people. Defense is dual use. If, for instance, the screens can be used for military purposes, but for civil purposes as well. So we have a lot of dual use. So I think that is a big market that is opening now, which is space, defense, which are two big markets, new markets with a huge potential. There again, I think that Europe can be in the lead. If we say now we're going to spend 2% or even 5% on defense, what shall we do? Buy weapons in the United States?
Hopefully not.
Or in Israel?
Hopefully
or
not.
in Russia?
Hopefully not.
Okay, so we have to produce ourselves. So we need startups. We need startups going to that. And I must say, at BMI, I'm a director of what we call the capstone project. So at the end of the term, the students have to capstone project, a real project. And this year there were some students having ideas of a startup in the military field. I find it fantastic. And this might be really something that works for the future. So Europe should focus on defense, and Europe, you have now the defense funds. So European is going to help on that as well. So yes, I think the money is there. What we are missing is the absorption of the money. Because think about 5% of GDP. How can you invest 5% of GDP if today we don't have the production capacity? We're not going to give everything to Rheinmetall. We need more things. So I would say, startups, please go for it. It's a huge market, and the market will work. Even there's a peace in some parts of the world. There's so many problems today in the world. There's so much turbulence that this, unfortunately, will be a big market.
Yes, that's kind of the other side of the coin in this discussion, right? From a pure economic standpoint, I believe that is a great investment and one that Europe should pursue. And having an Israeli background, I definitely understand the value of defense. But then again, having an Israeli background, I can also see the ways that it can be misused and where the balance can be kind of skewed towards things that are, not the best, to say the least.
Again, we are back on what you said on artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence or military, in fact, as such, it's neutral.
Yeah.
It's the way you use it that makes it ethical or non-ethical. So again, that's why the human comes in. And that's why we as human beings must remain the master of the scene and not undergo the scene.
True. I agree. It's a tool like any other. And again, for example, I'm personally a pacifist. I would choose not have to go to war or have any war exist in the world.
Everybody would choose that.
If that's possible. But sometimes that's just not possible. And you need to be prepared for that moment. And economically, again, that's a sound strategy. There is tangible value there. A lot more, some would say, than in your typical vaporware startup that does everything and nothing. But yeah, not to get too political. I'm sure we are about business and technology first and foremost, not politics. So coming back to that, having founded EBAN, over this time, how have you seen the scene develop? Have you achieved what you wanted to achieve when you founded it?
Well, it comes beyond expectations. I never hoped when we created EBAN, I was with two of us. So my second partner was Christian Soblans. So we created this together. We made a small feasibility study. I remember the time it costed 40,000 euro.
Oh, wow.
That's not a big issue. In all countries, in all European countries. And when he said, that's what we need to startups. And because, if you start up and you're looking for 200,000 euro, there's not one seed capital fund that is looking at your file. You're too small. Okay, you can go to grants, but I already said what I think about grants. And business angels, the money was there. You had a lot of people. What is a business angel? He made a business, he made some money, and then he said, okay, he made me the money. He goes with his partner to Tenerife. And after 3 months, he get bored. That's a typical business angel. So we say, the money is there. The people is there. At that time, we calculated, so now I'm going back 25 years, that there was 1.5 million people that could be business angels, which were not because it did not exist. It exists informally, but not structurally. And what is a business angel at the time? We said the business angel is somebody who has at least 1 million to invest, who knows what businesses are, and who wants to invest if you push him a bit. That's him or her, unfortunately, mostly him. So then what we did, we organized seminars. So I went in the whole of Europe to every country seminar to say, hey guys, what is a business angel? Huh? It was nice to see. And then we had discussion with the French because they want to translate it. And Ange Providentiel said, no, we keep business angel. So we did, in fact, seminars together with Christian at the time. We did seminars in the whole of Europe. And each time we tried to say, hey guys, if you set up a business angel network like EBAN now, we're going to subsidize you with a small amount, a very small amount, that you can learn from others, namely from UK, how it works. Mm-hmm. And that's how we started. The first business angel network was in the Netherlands. And we started from then onwards, buying from one to another. And now today we are 350 business angel networks, which is amazing. And now doing something like 5,000 companies a year at European level get financing to business angels. And we see that those who get financing to business angels are the most sustainable. So I must say, I'm quite happy for that. What I fail to take it personally is what I say, we don't have enough female business angels. The second point is we need more. We said business angel network. What's a business angel network? To be easy, it's a kind of marriage office. Huh? On the one hand, you have business angels. On the other hand, you have startups, and you bring them together. Yeah. Why do you bring them together? Because if you take the yellow pages under a business angel, you don't find them. Because if you're a business angel, I'm not going to say, my name is Rudy Aernoudt, I have 1 million to invest, this is my address. So the way to cope with that is to have some intermediate, which was the marriage office, which was the business angel network. Now, what we saw after a couple of years, two problems. First problem, in some countries, it was much too much people who are not really business angels, but there's something new. People like to have their business card business angel. And so it were... people who have not an enterprise level, but who are before, let's say, member of Rotary. It's not because you're a member of Rotary that you're a business angel. So we saw that the quality of a business angel network depends on the quality of the business angels. That's the first lesson. Second lesson, if you attract real business angels, then I quote the psychologist Dolto, there's no such thing as a free lunch. You have to pay for it. So if you want to be business angel of a network, it cannot be for free. You have to pay. Mm-hmm. You have access to startup, you have to pay. The business angel network should be self-supporting. This means if they make a deal, if you sell your house and I buy your house, there'll be a third, an agency taking 3%. Should be the same, success fee. So what we like to do now, to more and more, the good business angel networks must have business angels, high quality, paying to be a member, and a success fee on the deals. That's something you do. Now, the last point, which was a problem as well, that sometimes you start up a company, you do your company, you exit, you make money, but this does not mean that you know how to evaluate the company. You don't know how to make shareholders of the agreement. So what we did then is setting up business angel academies. What is a business angel academy? It's business angels gathering together with business angels without startups there. And they get lessons, basic lessons. How do you put the value on your shares, for instance? And the secondary impact of that was that the business angels say, look, I had a startup yesterday. It's a nice thing. Would you not invest together with me? Syndication. And so now you got to syndication. Now one of the best business angel networks have paying business angels, high quality angels, has a business angel academy, and is making syndication. And these are now the criteria to see what is a good business angel network or not. So out of the 350, I think there's some who still have some progress that they can make.
That's a very politically correct way of saying it.
Thank you.
But yeah, the syndication, I think, is a very important one that we haven't really touched upon beforehand. And I think that's one of the kind of great tools of democratizing becoming a business angel a little bit, because smaller business angels, those who don't have $1 million to invest, can still kind of learn the ropes. And in the good environment, in the particular environment, there's a lot to learn from more experienced business angels, and that can become, again, more kind of good, better for the whole infrastructure.
You're right, because now the average amount of a business angel, so I don't speak on the level of the project, but on the level of the business angel, the average amount is 60,000 euro. And that's nothing. Eh?
Yeah.
So if it means if you start up and you say, I need 200,000 euro, well, you need to convince 3 business angels. Now, the second point is once you have the 200,000 euro, business angel grant, whatever, then you need, let's say, 500,000, 1 million. You're still too small for equity capital. You're too big for a business angel. Solution is syndication. Syndication is the best way to cope with what we call the small equity gap. Small equity gap is part of the value of debt. A lot of startups, they are, you get some grants, one business end, then there's nobody. Eh? So that's why syndication is so important. And that's why syndication might be one of the next things to do. In fact, all deals will be syndicated because then, as you say, for a new business angel, we call them virgin business angel. But once I gave a speech, an American officer they called me, I cannot use the word virgin business angels. So now I say a never experienced angel. So he or she, he said, okay, I want to do, but I never done it. So, okay, but do it with somebody else and make him for that project the lead business angel who is going to follow. And perhaps the next investment or potential investment might be a sector which I know very well, then I'm going to lead. And that's something which we have to work more on. But for me, that is the future for the financing, let's say, up to 1 million. And once you are in the million, then the next financial round, risk is already lower. View on return is closer because you're closer to the market. That's where the risk capitalists, and I call risk capitalists those who don't take risk, they can come in. I'm not sure they will agree.
I'm sure they will not, at least not all of them. But yeah, like in the end, if all of that works pretty well together, if there's more capital that goes towards more active industries, towards defense, towards the cool startup ecosystem, and democratizing a little bit of the entry towards what becoming a business angel is, and that in terms of itself creates more opportunities for more startups to get more funding and more innovation. That's all in and of itself should create a pretty nice system, a system that is both effective and unique a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's quite unique, and it might be close to our values, huh? Because again, a business angel is not somebody who says, I want a return of 100%, the multiple of 6. That's the VC world. Huh? So they can be a nice partner, and they, of course, they want some fun, they want some challenge, but they don't want 40, 50% return. So, because you must know, in Europe, you have a lot of companies, they don't make a return of 200%. They make a normal return, 10, 15, 20%. For them, it's most difficult to get money. And that's where the business angel can come in. And that's where, from a political point of view, from the macroeconomic point of view, a lot of them, you need them. You must see in the venture capital world, there's the 1 out of 100 rule. You get 100 applicants, you take 1. 99 fall out of the boat. Well, in the 99, there's some shit, of course. People think they invented the wheel, but the wheel exists already. But there are some good projects in as well. We do not have the high return of a couple of 100%, but a decent return, and that you should take back. And that's where the role is of public money as well. That's where you should intervene. Not on project level, on fund level, of course. Never ask an official to find a project because he will choose the wrong project.
Why is that?
Well, because they don't know anything about it. You know, they have this kind of administrative criteria that has nothing to do with reality. I always say to my policy friends of the commission, if you succeed to avoid the bad one, that's a good thing, but don't try to take the good one because you cannot choose them. It's not up to them to do it.
So then who would you go to choose a next winning project?
Well, I think we should work on fund level. We have now something like 850 venture capital funds in Europe. You see, I don't need AI to have that figure.
You are a professor, though, so
Okay, that's my job. I paid for that. So I have 805 VC funds. Well, on the VC funds, you can say who are doing a good job. Hmm? And if those who are doing a good job, the best they don't need you because they can raise money from the market. But we see that today, the two biggest problem of the venture capital world is one, exit. How to get out. If you invest in a company, the first thing in what you call your due diligence, who can I sell my share to? Can I do it to the owner? Can I do it to strategic? Can I do it to the stock IPO? But and today the biggest problem is exit, and something that Europe should work on is an exit market. Why not launch a secondary market, for instance? Exit is a big problem.
Yeah.
The second big problem is fundraising. But again, this contradicts with what I said before. If there's so many money in the market, why should fundraising be a problem? And so that's where, in this interface, I see a role of the public by choosing the good funds and saying, if you go there, do it. If I may come back to the SBIC system in the United States, if in the United States, you say, Max, I'm going to set up a fund. Then you go to the SBA, the Small Business Administration. Hey, I'm Max, look, this is my team, very important. We are going to do this. If it is a good project, they will say, okay, we give you a stamp, a label. You're as big. What does it mean once you're as big? That you can go to the financial markets through SBA and you get cheap money. Cheap money based on the interest rate on the financial market. So it's not subsidy. It's guaranteed by the government, but it's a financial market. So this means, in fact, let's say you set up a fund of 200 million. You have 150 million as debts and 50 million equity. So if I'm then the 50 million boy who puts the money, the leverage on my equity and return is enormously.
Yeah.
If my funders make a return of 15%, but 75% of the money, it's a debt of 3%, then my return on investment will be something like 40, 50%. You see? So what you do now is you set up a fund in America, you first ask the label, and then you do the private fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
What does it cost for the government? Zero. Because if you invest, as I do today, in 350 funds, each fund has something like 20 startups or scale-ups, you have never 7,000 companies going bankrupt at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So the loss is zero. So it's a very clever system. Loss for the public is zero, but you arrive at having fundraising, and that's what makes that you have big funds in America, which we don't have. So Esclar was an idea just to copy. We should copy this at the same scale. Of course, the system exists since 1958, so it's a long way, but that's what you have to do in Europe. You have to have a high scheme where you have pari passu, where a private fund can say, okay, give me so much lending, guaranteed by the government, and that's what you give some money. And it gives a trigger on the return, so it's easier to have private investors. It's an easy system. Just copy it.
Then, how do you feel the reality of it? Like, how much time is it realistic to expect to copy and implement such a system in Europe, where our decision gridlock is legendary, so to speak?
Well, Escalar is in fact, because as I said, I was been working at MIT, that's why I saw it. So when I came back to the commission, I did Escalar, which is in fact the copy of SBIC. So it took me 4 years to get it through. In a pilot phase where they had 12 funds, so it works, and now it's part of the mainstream. So I would say every venture capital fund listening to me, go to Escalar and ask if you have a fund, let's say of 50 million, go to Escalar and ask another 50 million. The other 50 million, you will get it non-pari passu. This means in case your fund goes bankrupt, Escalar is paid back first. But in case you make a good return, the biggest part of the return is going to the private investors. Just Escalar, AF.org.
That's a good system. If I was a fund manager, I would definitely check it out. But
Great.
No.
I hope someone will do it like you did.
Let's hope so. So to kind of round up our discussion, we are running a little bit out of time. Like, you've done a lot throughout your career. You have a storied career, some would say, and you are still doing a lot, and you're still balancing. To use, I don't have a better word,
Okay.
but let's use it. You're still balancing a lot at the same time. Where is the end game? What do you want to still achieve, or have you already achieved everything that you wanted to, and now it's just about having fun?
Well, I think my whole life was having fun, fun and passion. But I still want to realize a lot of things. Friends, one of the things I'm working now on is what we call the zebra economy.
Yeah.
What is the zebra economy? In fact, our companies are too much thinking in terms of profit. And then, of course, we think about social responsibility. That go much further. The zebra economy, the zebra concept means that the company should think not in terms of profits, or then the other side of the spectrum, the social economy, what can I do with society, but we can combine. So for me, the zebra economy means that every company should say, what can I do for the society, but I'm going to make profits at the same time, which means that you have to go on long term thinking, which means that in fact, the whole venture capital world, because that's of course my dada, the whole venture capital world should change its spirit and no longer become this close end funds 10 years and then finish, close down and go again, but long term perspectives like family offices. And if we can do the financing, which can be linked to the zebra economy and the zebra concept of enterprises, then we have a new way of thinking about what I called our value driven economy. So, changing the financial system so that they think on the long term, that they take in terms of resilience on the long term and not profits on the short term, which is the mindset thinking. So we should forget about the carried interest things. We should think on the long term. And if you do that, then you change the whole system. So that's something I want to realize. I'm now preparing a book on zebra economics, and we're going to give some seminars on the zebra economics, and we have already some nice examples of companies doing zebra economy. So I think this is the next movement we're going to launch, and then I will find business angels and venture capital funds who wants to go in that movement and say we go for zebra companies because on the long term they have a better return. And then of course we can include again the female business angel and the female venture capital. So if we still do that, I think will be the next step of one of my dreams to realize.
That's a very interesting, very great dream. I would gladly support it. But the reality of things is that the short-term thinking wins out a lot of the time nowadays, and I feel that that mindset is becoming more and more dominant as years go by. Honestly, like more and more companies, even the big ones, make very short-sighted decisions on like
It's true.
everything.
You're fully right, but you know what? It can be. I'm a liberal thinking, but I'd like to quote Che Guevara, who says, "It's impossible that nobody told me so."
Well, yeah, I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it's kind of it's a hurdle, it's an obstacle to change that sort of thinking. It's I don't know even what it requires, what it needs. So you mentioned that you already know some companies that are following the zebra
Yeah,
economy,
of
basically.
course.
So what are some examples?
For instance, Ben and Jerry, which everybody know with the glasses or
Yeah.
the ice cream. It's really a zebra company. So they have people, even disabled people working there. They say, we are only buying local products. No, this is part of a zebra economy, the local economy. You know, the zebra is living in a community. It's not somebody like the Googles of this world saying, we want to kill the market and we're the only monopolist over and then we put prices. That's not the model. For me, the unicorns, they will not like it. Unicorns are obsolete. Zebra is the future. So that's an example of a zebra economy. We have friends in Belgium, some zebra group already. We have already 10 companies in there who really try to find this equilibrium between the two. So I believe we can make it, and I believe it's really the future. Now, on the mindset thing, that's something people always say to me, you cannot change the mindset. Well, if I, during this podcast, would set up a cigar and start to smoke a cigar, you would say, what are you doing? Well, not so long ago, we could smoke cigars in restaurants. You could smoke cigarettes during the plane.
Yeah.
Now, if you do that, you're a lunatic. Before, if you did not do that, you were asocial. So we can change the mindset
True.
with regulation, with awareness, with saying what we can achieve together. So again, it's not impossible. Nothing is impossible.
Well, yeah, I will try to remain an optimist and believe that the best things are not impossible and not the kind of the worst version of our reality, which is also not impossible. So let's hope that we will become better and not worse in the
Optimism is the moral duty.
That's a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it. Well, thank you, Rudy. So where can people read more about you, about the zebra economy? Where can people find you?
Well, they can find me if you Google my name. So Rudy Rudy, and then Aernoudt is Aernoudt. So then I have my website with all my articles. So you can give it to artificial intelligence, and they can translate it into any language. So that's why you can read me, and of course listen to this podcast. And I wish you the best with all podcasts. And don't forget to invite some female business angels for your next podcast.
I will do my best. I will do my best. I've had some female fund managers beforehand,
Okay,
but business angels, not yet. So we'll need to correct that.
great.
Thank you. Thank you, Rudy. And thank you all as well for tuning in and listening to us. If you liked what you've heard here today, leave us a comment telling us why. If you didn't like us, you can also leave a comment, but be nice about it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave a like. Dislikes are no longer a thing on YouTube, thank God. And yeah, if you've kind of correlated, if you gel with what we are talking about today, do support the Zebra economy. If you're a business person or if you're a fund manager, do check out the resources that Rudy has outlined, because I do believe that they are worth checking out. And thank you very much once again, and see you on the next one. Bye-bye.